You can start.
Assalamualaikum, this is your instructor and I'm going to be teaching you about the stockholders' equity at the moment. We are going to be studying chapter 11's end portion. We have already covered the first half, which was including the common shares issuance as well as the preferred stocks issuance. And let me just recap a bit. What about the stockholders' equity when there are two groups? Basically, one is the preferred stockholders group and the other is the common shareholders group. So the difference between the two is basically that preferred stockholders are usually preferred when it comes to the insolvency of the company. That when the company becomes insolvent, at that time the funds you usually are distributed in the order that the creditors get the funds and then the preferred stockholders get the funds, and then if there are remaining funds then the common shareholders would get the funds. And usually the par value also of the preferred stockholders per share value, basically I would say that the par value of per share is usually more than that of the common share that are distributed or issued. So there are two things. First of all, that the shares are authorized, and then the other thing is that they are issued. And you must remember one thing, that when shares are authorized, it does not mean that the same amount would also be issued. So for instance, if 100,000 shares are authorized to be issued, it means a simple permission has been granted to the company or the firm to issue so many shares by the Security Exchange Commission. But when it comes to issuance, that how many shares are outstanding in the market, those would be included. When it comes to preferred stock, obviously they would be lesser in quantity or amount than those of the common shares that are issued, because their per value, or you can say that per value or market price of the share or the issuing price of the share is way more than that of the common shares that are issued, because common shares are usually also more in quantity. So less in price per share but more in quantity, whereas preferred stocks are more in price per share and they are less in quantity. So vice versa. Now there are two other things that I wanted to talk to you about. The dividend policy. Dividends are usually given to the preferred stockholders before they are actually distributed to the common shareholders. And then the dividends are also of the nature that either they are accumulating from the past balances. So this is basically known as the cumulative effect. If they are accumulating the previous balance alongside, then this cumulative effect means that they are going to get the common or the preferred stockholders would be getting the dividend from the previous years as well. So for instance, if let's say the year 2015, 16 and 17 were essentially those years in which the dividends were not paid, and now this it has this balance is going to be moved on to the year 2017. So 15, 16 and 17, if you have let's suppose the company announces that $5,000 share, let me just put it like this, that if there are $5,000 share for 2016 dividends, shares that were issued initially in the year 2016, the dividends were announced as $5,000 but they were unpaid. And then we move on to 2017, again 5,000 were announced but they were unpaid. If this is cumulative, it means that in the year 2018, not only would you be getting the $10,000, but other than that, if the company has announced the new payment of this dividend, or they have declared the dividend, this is known as declaration of dividend. So lump sum amount that would be paid is actually $15,000, and this is basically only when in the question it is stated that it is cumulative. So you have to be very careful about the language of the question. If it is cumulative, you are going to be recording or calculating all the previous balances that are unpaid or outstanding. Now let's just move on to something which is I think we will not discuss that before. Transferability of ownership. Okay, like I said, that if it is an initial public offering, the firm has to issue the shares via the commercial banks, and since that is the first time the company is actually issuing the shares, that is initial public offering, and the banks have to be acting as an intermediary, but that is the primary market. But when it converts into the secondary market, now this would entail transferability now from one person to another. If you need money, you'll be selling your shares, And now it is more common that in the stock market, which is basically electronic in nature, the stock, there is an account which has to be opened in order for the stocks to be purchased or sold. And you usually do these transactions on the phone. You don't have to physically go to the dealer or the broker to get the or engage in this sale and purchase of shares. But there has to be a minimum amount that you have to pay. So this is known as transferability. I think we have already discussed about the disadvantages. I'm not going to be repeating that. There's one thing that wanted to discuss with you. This was regarding the stock split. Basically, this stock split is usually, let me just go to the slide where there is stocks. Okay, we have covered this, authorization and issuance. Let's just move further ahead to, okay, we have discussed the voting rights that common shareholders usually, normally they say that, traditionally the voting rights have to be with common stockholders because they are the ones who decide the board of directors, or they would decide the, who the person has to be for managing of the affairs of the company. Because there is a concept of principals and agent, and the principal is basically the stockholders or the owners, I would say, and the common shareholders usually they will select who the manager or the agent would be acting on behalf, just like a representative in the parliament would be acting on behalf of the populace at large. But preferred stockholders usually do not have such voting rights. Next, I would come to dividend. Obviously, it depends upon the company whether they want to announce a dividend or not. If the company is not doing very well, they usually hold back on payment even if they announce the dividends. And you will record the dividends when they're declared, essentially. And do remember that when the dividends are declared, you are going to be, this is the entry, dividends declared, they will be debited. This is going to be debited, okay? I'm just writing it here, but it is actually debited to dividends payable. Dividends payable. So that means there's something to be paid. Usually when they're declared, they're not paid at that time, and they are paid at some subsequent date. So for instance, if they have to be paid on December 31st, it means that someone who owns the shares on 29 December will not necessarily be paid the dividend on 31st, because it may be that the person purchased those shares either on 29 or 28. So they will basically announce that, okay, the declaration will have this, announcement alongside that the company will pay to those owners or stockholders who have retained the shares till 1st of December. So if someone sells those shares on 1st of December, the person who will purchase those shares, he's not going to be getting those dividends. The person who actually retained those shares and then he sold them off, even though he does not have the shares at that time, but on the 1st of December he had those shares, he's going to be getting those, that dividend, Now again, I've already explained that. Let me just, recap this, cumulative versus non-cumulative. So assume that corporation is organized on January 1st with 10,000 shares of $8 preferred stock and 50,000 shares of common stock, right? So now, as I already mentioned, that usually the preferred stock are more in, value, and common shares are less in value. So it is, if the preferred stock is non-cumulative, that means that the dividend is not going to carry forward, okay? And this terminology is that it's not going to be carried forward. However, for cumulative ones, it's going to be carried forward. Next, I'm going to be going towards the cash flows. Okay, there are three kinds of activities of the firm: the financing one, the the investing activities, and the operating activities. We are not going to be getting into them right now because this is something which is for you to learn further when we are going to be doing the final exams course. Let's just put it this way. I'm just going to be very precise in this, that financing activities are usually when the funds are being raised by the firm, and the treasury department deals with the monetary transactions major decision that what to do or how to dispense with the funds. So if it is wanting to, or the firm is wanting to invest, the treasury department will hold those decisions, or the transactions, or the market value, or the VaR, which is value at risk, all the important decisions. And the firm can also decide to repurchase its shares. Okay, the market price, again, there is something which is the market price or the book value. The book value is basically the historical cost. you have to Google the word historical cost in order to understand what is this accounting assumption. It's known as an accounting principle or an accounting assumption, which means that the price at which you originally purchased the share, you're going to retain that in your record. However, if the market price, let's suppose, of the shares in this case rises, or it goes up, so it means that the firm is doing well more than what it originally was doing. So, for instance, if it had a historical cost of, let's suppose, $10,000, lump sum shares, and then that price rose to $15,000. So that means that this cushion of $5,000, this is basically the paid-in cap that it had. Now, there is another concept of paid-in cap. It is linked with the par value. Do not confuse the two things together, because there is something which is known as the par value, which means that the firm has decided that in case it goes insolvent, it's going to be paying off at the minimum or the cushion level at which it has decided. So, for instance, it could be $1 a share, and the remaining the price at which it is going to be issuing the shares, that is going to be the market price at that time. And let's suppose if it was selling at a market price of $5 a share, whereas the original legal capital or the par value was $1, so the paid-in cap would be $4. We have already covered that. We're going to be reading that once you start with the chapter. Over here they say that the market price could vary. It is good for the firm if the market price goes up, and it means that the firm is actually expanding, it is doing mergers, acquisitions and stuff. If the company is successful, the stock price usually increases, and vice versa. Now, stock split. Okay, the stock splits. Now, there is a concept which means that the company has decided that since the share price is going up, it wants to basically reduce the price of the shares. How? Like, for instance, if you go to a fruit seller, you're going to be, if the supply is a lot of tomatoes, let's say, the price per tomato is going to, or per kg, or if there are eggs, per dozen eggs would go down if the buyers are less. Similarly, if the buyers are more, that means the demand is higher actually, then at that time the price is going to go up. Similarly is the case with stocks. If the company or the management of the company, they decide that they want to have the price of the per stock value, in other words, to go down, they're going to be issuing more stocks, and in the ratio. Now those stocks could be issued in the ratio of 2:1, 3:1, or 4:1. It means that twice, for every one share that a company originally had, now it's going to be splitting it into two. Splitting basically means a breaking up or dividing into two. Now they're going to be issuing, for every one share, originally they're going to be issuing two shares. So that means that the value is going to go down to half, and in this case it's going to go to 1/3 and 1/4. Originally, if the par value was $10, so that means now 2-to-1 policy, $10 into half for stock split. So value is going to go into $5, but the amount of the shares, for instance, if they were 10,000, now it's going to go into 2 is going to 20,000 shares now, right? And we'll just take intermission of prayers. Sorry, इसका एक मैं सुबह से इंतजार कर रही हूँ 12 बजे. Alright, now let's just go to a small case, a stock split illustration. I'm not going to be reading through the whole thing. You can just go over it. I'm just going to be looking at the main point, which is of consideration here. There is 2-for-1 stock split. As you can see, 2-for-1 stock split, I'm going to be highlighting for you to see this. This company basically has decided to do a stock split. Basically, it means that they're going to be issuing more shares. You should know the reason behind it. There's also a question here. I'm going to be going towards the question for you to see how you're supposed to attempt this question, because we have paucity of time here. So let's just see. Let's just load this thing. Okay, we have. Let's just see if I can have a question regarding this stock split. Okay, yeah. If you see this, the common stock of Fido Corporation was trading at $45 per share, and a year later, on October 15, the current year, it was trading at $80 per share, and on this date Feroz board of directors decide to split the company's common stock. Again, if a question like that comes, although a whole question it's not going to come in this format, because probably you'll be getting some kind of a part with the such requirement which is supposed to incorporate this effect. If this is sort of an adjustment that you should know, that if the company decides in 2-for-1 split. Now they have asked basically what is the price, okay, of this stock split, what price, at what price would you actually expect the stock to trade. Then know that initially it was trading at 45, but then it was trading at $80. So you do not get confused in the exam, because you should always take the market price, which is the latest one. In this case it is $80. So now 2-for-1 stock split in this case would mean 80. Okay, this marker is not working. Let me just take another one. This works better. This $80, since it is stock split, so it's going to be splitting the value into half. So now it's going to be $40. So the first part, you should know that the answer is $40. Again, second part is a 4-for-1 split. So it would mean that now instead of 40, it's going to be 1/4. In this case, it's going to be $20, right? Now, what do you think Feroz board of directors decide to split the company stock? Why do you think actually? The reason I've already mentioned before, it's because the company's board of directors or the managers have essentially decided that the stocks are, selling at a very high value, and the investors won't be able to afford this value. Therefore, they have decided to split the stock so that now the value is going to go down, and more investors can, pool in their funds. The reason why they don't want a limited amount of investors to be investing is because they want that their investment should be equally distributed in a wider pool, so that if the company goes insolvent in some cases, the loss per investor could be minimized in this case. Now let's just look at some other examples that I can see. If we've already done equity, I'm just going to be giving the some brief about. Okay, this is treasury stock and stock split. Okay, so I've already given you you have to read the text because of dearth of time. I won't be able to read the entire text in front of you, but I'll just this is basically the 18th edition, but if you just go to the 15th edition or 16th, 17th edition, it'll have the same queries or the questions. In this case, they're asking that Twin Town was authorized to issue 300,000 shares of common stock and originally issued 100,000 shares of. So you should always know, like I told you before, that authorization has to be ignored. This is just for your information. That company is given permission by Security Exchange Commission, and that is known as authorization, whereas issuance is of value to us, that is of concern. And 100,000 shares of $10 par value. So now you are going to be writing it as, because the marker is not working as that well, I will simply state that par value stock at $18 per share. Now common stock. So now when you make the stockholders equity section, let me just see if I can make it here. Let me see if I can. Okay, common shares, par value, okay, and common shares paid in cap. So paid in cap is basically paid in capital. Par value is how many shares were originally there. Let me just see the data again. It says that 100,000 shares at $10 par value, 18 per share now, 100,000 shares. So now 100,000 would mean what? Like 100,000 shares. It's par value, so you multiply it by par value as well as the total market price. This is actually $1 million. So now you can just write it's 1 million. And as you can see that when you multiply it with 18, you get 1.8 million. So the difference between 1.8 and 1 million is actually 800,000. So the paid in capital in this case would be 800,000. So the total value would be 1.8 million, right? If there's any confusion, you can just get back to me on this. Let me just explain once again that 100,000 shares we had, you multiply it in this order, that you have common shares, par value is 1 million, and then paid in cap is 800,000. because 18 was the market price. So you always subtract from the market price the par value to get the paid-in capital. Subsequently, 25,000 shares were repurchased at $20. So always remember that since they were repurchased, and of which 10,000 was subsequently resold. Okay. Now, okay, so 25,000 were repurchased at $20. Originally, 25,000 shares. So this is now basically the question with treasury involvement size. So 25,000 shares, and I have to have my calculator, and let's just see if there is a calculator which can calculate, or see how we can calculate this amount. Does it have a calculator? This is $20. Do we have a calculator here? Oh, no. Can you pause this? Okay, let's just continue. So we now have 25,000 shares repurchased at $20, of which 10 were subsequently resold. So know that now, since we have 25,000 shares, they were actually repurchased, but now 10,000 out of them were resold. So what is the remaining amount? This is going to be subtracted. You get 15,000. This is a very important point. Now, since we are talking about treasury, so that means the firm has initially they issued some stocks and then they decided to repurchase those stocks. So originally they decided to repurchase this amount, but then they again resold. So whatever was repurchased and then this was resold, you subtract the resold from the repurchase. This is the current value at which it is. This is the now outstanding shares. So now from the equity statement, you're going to be subtracting this value multiplied by the value at which they were actually repurchased. So now in this case, this is approximately 300,000, as you can see. So from the stockholders' equity, I would say that the treasury stock paid in over here. How much is the paid in? As you can see that they are going to be resold at $23, right? So now you multiply the, okay, so this is 10,000, so you reach 23. This is approximately 230,000 because you multiply 223 into 10,000 and you get about 230,000, right? So this is the value at they were resold. But since now this is the value at which they were resold and 20 was the value at which they were repurchased, I am going to be subtracting the value at which they were repurchased at $20. Okay? So you don't have to get confused between 23 because they were resold at that time, at that price. So 230,000 we are going to be, not counting, but we are going to be subtracting the 300,000 that was still, that is something which is still outstanding. This 15,000 shares, the total amount is outstanding at this price. So I'm going to be subtracting this. But for paid in cap now, you should know that total, how many shares were there. Let me just get back to this question. So now they say that since there were 25,000 shares, out of which 10,000 subsequently resold at 23. So now see that this is 20 and now it is $3. So 10,000 into 30,000. So now the paid in cap in this case is going to be 30,000, and remember that this paid in cap is always added and the treasury stock 300,000 is always subtracted. How did this come? Basically just, the 10,000 shares that were, resold, you multiplied with the $3 that you had. That was the difference between resold price and the original issued price. So this is the paid in. For you always add the paid in because that is a profit and that is the treasury stocks, that are still with you in your treasury. So you're subtracting what is in the market from what you are holding, outside of the market, basically with the firm. And now in the last there is retained earnings balance, which is $120,000. So now retained earnings are always added $120,000, right? So you just add it up, because the market is not working, I'm not able to write entirely. Just add this thing up and you get the total value of the equity, known as stockholders equity. So at least the point is that now you know how to handle the stock split, you know how to handle the treasury transactions or adjustments that you have to do. In case if the retained earnings is not given to you, do know that you take the income, whatever net income that you have, and you subtract the dividends that are issued, whether of preferred stock or the common stock, and you get the net value. This is going to be your closing retained earnings. Retained earnings are basically those earnings that have been retained by the firm and they are reinvested for future operations. And we come to the end of the question, but the B part says that how the declaration of a 2-for-1 stock split subsequent given to the transactions would affect the stockholders' equity section. It would definitely mean that the par value of $10 would reduce to $5. That's the only impact it's going to have. It's going to reduce, but since the shares would double in value, so therefore you multiply either 1 million or you multiply 5 by 200,000, it's going to give you the same answer. So stock split would eventually give you the same answer, right? We'll just take an intermission. Thank you. Break. Problem 11.1a, I'm just going to skim through it quickly. Early in 2015, Robbinsville Press was organized with authorization to issue 100,000 shares of $100 par value. Now again, this is a question of authorization and actual issuance is quite different. 100,000 shares of $100 par value preferred stock and 500,000. Again, you can see that the preferred stocks are way less in number than the common stock. So 500,000 shares of $1 par value common stock. Again, if I organize that, so 10,000 shares of the preferred stock were issued at par and 170,000 shares were sold for $15 per share. Now, how do you calculate the paid-in cap in this case? So let's just begin by writing again. Let me just copy paste this question if I can in the Word so that I don't have to go revert back to the book. Early prepare the stockholders section. Let me just see. So they say that basically it's the early in 2015, Robbinsville Press was organized with authorization to issue 100,000 shares of $100 par value preferred stock. But now, how many do we actually have? How many have we actually authorized? 10,000 shares of preferred stock. And in our format, the preferred stock always comes first. So preferred stock, and you can just write in the bracket here 10,000 shares and $100 par value. So that would mean basically 3, 4, 5, 6. $1 million, right, of this much value were issued at par and it's 170,000. So they have not mentioned any further from market price, so we don't have to calculate the paid-in in this case. 170,000 shares of common stock. Now common stock, they have mentioned the par value at $1, so 170,000 into $1 would give you at, so you write here at par, and it's going to be 170,000, right? Then you have, okay, this line means that 8% of $100, this is the par value of preferred stocks. Preferred stock, you have to just keep it in mind. We're not going to be putting it right away, but this 8% would actually mean 0.08. So this is essentially $8. This is the dividend rate. And since it is cumulative in nature, so it would mean that the previous dividends would also be paid alongside. This is the main value that you should remember. And so we have 10,000 shares. So this is going to, for 1 year, it's going to be 80,000 dividends. So this is easier to solve, this part. Now let's just move on back to where we were. The common shares were actually sold for $15 per share. So again, now 170,000 into $15 is how much? Here we have the calculator. So let me just 170,000 into $15, and you get about 250. Actually 2.5 million minus 170,000, right? Because we have already had the par value loaded above. This is 2380000. So now paid in cap, common stock paid in 2380000, right? This is the value that you actually note. Now again, now what they have said is that during the first 4 years of operations from 2015 to 18, first 4 years would mean 18,000 into 4, so that would give you 320,000 dividend for preferred stock. So this is how you calculate the dividend. And 70 paid dividends of 75 cents per share in each year on its outstanding common stock, right? So for common stock now it's going to be 0.75, that is cent, for 4 years. And how many shares were actually issued? 170,000 shares for 4 years, right? Is it 170,000 shares were sold for $15 per share? Yeah. So now you calculate this total amount. How much does this come up to? So it's 170,000 into 0.75 into 4. This is 510,000 in each year on its outstanding common stock. Bar value was sold for 10,000 of the preferred and 170,000. Yes, this is subsequently for 4 years. So how much does that become? Let me just see if I have missed any other detail. The corporation earned. Okay, this is another thing that they have earned 1,385,000. So whatever that they have earned. So let's suppose that, okay, what was this? 1,385,000. This is the total earnings or the net income for the previous year, from which this dividend would be subtracted, and whatever this dividend is, that is also going to be subtracted. That is the net earning will be your retained earning. We're going to be adding that here. That will be the retained earning here, and you just put the star here, and then you put a star on the working on how you obtain that value. So what is this value that we have? 510,000. $510,000. Let me just recalculate this to avoid any mistakes in this. We have 170,000 and we have 0.75. And then we have in 4 years. Yes, we have this much amount. Now we have to add this. So again, how much does this become? This comes to about 5, 6, 7, 8, 30,000. This 830 lump sum would be subtracted from 1,385,000. Let me just add the, just for you to see it clearly, 320,000, 830,000, and now you're going to subtract 1,385,000, and you get about 555,000. So this 555,000 is the amount of retained earnings that you get. Ignore the negative sign because I was subtracting the higher amount from the lower amount. This is the retained earnings that you get, and that would actually essentially complete your stockholders' equity section. Now, the part where, let me just put it. Okay, so we have calculated this amount and we have, made the schedule. Are there any dividends in areas on the company's preferred stock in December 2018? Okay, so you should know that the dividends, if any, in areas for preferred stock, then no dividends would have been paid for common stock. because I told you that preferred stocks are always preferred in the matter of the payment of dividends or dispensation of the funds. So if or had there been any outstanding payment due for the preferred stockholders, then the common shareholders wouldn't have been paid in the first place. The fact that they are being paid for the 4 years consecutive means that the preferred stockholders have been paid and there are no arrears left. So the answer is that there are no arrears left, right? So now let's just move on to the last question. I think because I think we have not done entries, and there is okay, I have found a question which is related with journal entry. This is also an equity section, and this will essentially wrap up your chapter. It means, okay, let me just rub this whole question off. Let me just find out the duster. Okay, now issuance of shares at $14 per share. How much does that become? The shares were issued to Shans or Shanes and 10 other investors. That is irrelevant to us at the moment. We just need to prepare the journal entry. So just multiply the issuance. Is there any other thing? Okay. So now they say that the corporation was authorized to issue 50,000 shares of $100. We are only interested in the par value, okay? So we have par value for preferred stock, which is $100, and we have par value for common stock, which is $2. And if we figure out what is the market price at this time, so this is basically 20,000 total into $14, and we have 280,000. So that is the cash that we receive. So initial payment would be, in this scenario, how are you supposed to write the initial payment? Or let me just copy paste the question here if it is convenient for you, because I don't want to revert too much. Let me just copy and just paste it here. Yeah, okay. Let me just broaden the font. Okay, now you can see it clearly. It says that they issued $14. So now the first entry that you should be making is basically cash to common shares, because you received cash. What's wrong with the marker? So this is 280,000 to common shares. Now common shares had par value as well of $2, if you remember. So par value is $2, and there are how many shares were there? How many shares? 20,000 shares. So naturally it would mean that 40,000, this is paid in, is $40,000, and we have the total common shares price. Okay, let me just write the price first. Common shares to 40,000 and paid in will be 40,000. That is basically $2 multiplied by 20,000 shares. This is how you make the first entry. Now the second entry similarly would be that January 7 issued an additional 500 shares of common stock to Shanes in exchange for his services. Alright, when a question comes to you that in exchange for something, that means that whatever exchange was made will be debited. Okay, so if they purchase an asset, you debit the asset. If they did some kind of an expense, or they they spent on something, you're going to put an expense here. In this case, the services were taken for his by the company. So Shanes in exchange for his services, Shane's services cost, okay, or Shane's service cost. How much is basically it's $7,000. They have already mentioned this amount here, so I'm just going to be writing here $7,000. But now we know that the par value of the shares that they have issued are 500, but we know that par value is 2. So the paid in, this is the basically the par value is actually common shares issued par value. What they have done is that they have taken the services and issued him, instead of cash, that they have issued him shares. So par value 2, so that you don't get confused. Par value is $1,000, 1,000, and the remaining amount is $6,000. That is the common shares paid in cap. That is the market price at which they were basically sold. The second entry. Now the third entry, issued 2 shares of preferred stock for cash. This is very simple. There is no paid in cap involved. Again, cash to preferred stocks and $250,000. $250,000 you get cash to preferred stock. Again, Zone 4 acquired land as a building in exchange for 15,000 shares of common stock in view of the appraisal value of the land. So again, they sold 15,000 shares worth of price, and $15 was the new market price. Just simply multiply the market price and you come to know what is the total amount, which is 15,000 shares into the amount which is how much is that? $15, right? So you get 225,000, right? So the land cost about 2. In this case, the entry that you're going to be making is land. You debit the land by 225,000. 2 common shares again. Is it by in view of the appraisal value that the common stock was value for the purpose of? But we already know that the par value is $2, right? So for $15,000, so common shares par value would be 30, right? So it's going to be 30,000. The remaining will be paid in cap, common stock paid in. You simply subtract this amount. I think 195,000 would be remaining. This is the entry. The first annual dividend of $10 per share was declared on the preferred stock to be paid. Okay, like I told you that declaration does not involve necessary payment unless they have specifically mentioned that. $10 per share was declared on preferred stock to be paid. How many preferred stock were issued on January 12th? Total, how many were issued? Let's just say to issue shares of $100 par by 10%, cumulative preferred stock and 4 shares of this, the following. Okay, so basically they issued 2,500 shares of preferred stock, and this comes to about 25,000. So dividend declared $25,000 to, again now, dividend payable $25,000. Okay. Now they've specifically mentioned that they've paid the cash, so you're going to reverse this payable part by, and let me just move it. I can just simply move this. So I'm going to write in here for this part, being pay the dividend. It's going to be reversal of this one. So you reverse by stating dividend payable by 25,000 to cash, and that is $25,000. Again, now 31st December, the revenue and expenses are closed into the income summary account. It means that initially the revenue or the earnings or the net earnings, in this case is the retained earning or the net income, was included in income summary. In that case, it was either net income or retained earnings to income summary by 147,200. However, when you are also closing the income summary account, then you are going to be reversing this entry, because now they say that they were closed into the summary account. That account indicated a net income on December 31st. Remember that all the accounts are closed. So income summary on December 31st would be closed, and this entry would be reversed to income summary 147,200 to net income 147,200. And do remember that since we are talking about the revenue expenses, we would also be closing the dividends that were paid because they are subtracted from the retained earnings. By how much amount? It was basically 25,000. So initially what happened was that the retained earnings, the dividends were closed into retained earnings. So in that case, retained earnings is always debited and to dividend account. Because the dividend is closed into retained earnings, see that retained earning has a credit nature. It increases when it is credited. If it is debited, it means that the dividends were subtracted from retained earnings. It reduced the account value. So that is why its retained earnings is debited and dividends are credited. Because dividends are closed into it. That is why they are credited and this is debited. If they were not closed, essentially we would have just a simple dividend expense to cash. However, since we are closing it into it now, instead of dividends being debited as expense, we are reducing the retained earnings. So the retained earnings is going to be debited by the same amount of $25,000, and that is what the instructions have asked us to do. You just read these instructions thoroughly. They say that equity section, journal entries, prepare the equity section of the balance sheet. Now you're supposed to put all these values in the format that I've already told you, and we have discussed that in the previous questions. That common stock, first of all the preferred stock, then common stock at par value, then paid cap, then you get the retained earnings after subtracting the dividends from them, or if you have treasury, since we don't have any treasury stock here, otherwise we would subtract the treasury at cost but add the paid in cap of the treasury. And I really thank you all for this, and you're supposed to read the PowerPoints as well as the chapter questions. Kindly do them and revert back to me in case of any problem and difficulties. Thank you so much.